Well, good evening. It's Monday, May 19th, 2025. Welcome to episode 111 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And we are jumping on tonight for another, I guess, not much of an agenda type episode.
Yep.
But we did want to come on because we were absent last week. We didn't come on and do a live stream because many of you may know we were going down and going to be out of town for a few days, which was really nice, I thought.
It was nice seeing folks that we see kind of almost on an annual basis or biannual basis.
Yeah. Well, it was just nice stepping away from the homestead.
Yes.
Right. That's something that we don't do, I think, probably nearly enough. And, you have to be able to make time to do that. And as I said earlier, I want to be able to do more of that this year.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're really looking to do is to kind of change things up here on the homestead and make a few changes. But I don't know. We want to kind of lighten the load. Would you not say?
Yes, definitely.
How do you intend on lightening the load?
Well, obviously there are a few critters that we're planning on getting rid of.
Yeah, but how do you plan on lightening your load? I mean, you take care of the critters when I'm not around, but primarily it's a joint effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you intend on, outside of the critters, lightening your load, if at all?
Well, I primarily take care of most of what goes on in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that too much of that changes, regardless if we're here or we're out on an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So not a whole lot of that is going to change too much. I would like to be a little more organized in the fact that I have a meal that's frozen so that when we come back, I'm not rushing around trying to figure out what I'm going to make for dinner, especially after we've been gone and we're getting in and we're exhausted. It'd be nice to be able to just pull that out of the freezer and pop it in the oven.
Mm-hmm.
And, have the rest of that time to have dinner and relax.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. As Rebecca alluded to, we were at a festival, and it's a festival that takes place every year, and it's on a private cattle ranch, 8,000 acre cattle ranch in the San Ynez Valley of California. And it's pretty nice because you can get onto that property, and the only thing that they really ask is that you respect the property, and you treat it as if it were your own. And I think that people primarily do that. And the event itself has kind of grown over the years. But I think what they're trying to do is to not have it get to the point where it's out of control. Because anytime you allow people to assemble and there's libations and people, you might have the wrong crowd show up. And I think that they've done a good job in, making sure that they keep the right crowd there. And it's just a collection of people who are free-spirited and open-minded. And, it's focused around running and endurance. But as you said, it's essentially a community, mm-hmm. like any other annual gathering where people show up. You start to know people, you meet people, you see them there, and it's kind of nice to see them there when you show up. And so Rebecca had a goal this year of running farther than you've ever run, correct? What is that? What was that goal?
So my goal was to run 100 miles in 2 days or 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I planned to do.
Yeah. Well, how did that go, actually? Because you just finished it, right?
I did just finish it.
Right. You signed up for what was considered the 4-day event, which gave you 4 days to complete this.
Mm-hmm.
But how did it go?
Well, these races always have their ups and downs,
mm-hmm.
I should say. You start out feeling good. You feel pretty optimistic as to what you're going to do. So for me, I even bumped that time frame up. But as time went on, I realized that that was a little unreachable.
Yeah.
And so my original, the 48, was actually a more obtainable time for me. I was able to do it in just under 43 hours. And that allowed me to get roughly about 3 hours sleep in there
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to just say to you and anybody else that might be listening to this that, I'm extremely proud of what you were able to accomplish. It's quite honestly something that I didn't know or think that you had in you. Not to say that you're not tough, not to say that you don't have the ability to do that if you put your mind to it. Because I honestly believe that anyone can do much more than they think they can do if they actually put their mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
They can will themselves to do incredible things. And oftentimes people put up barriers as to what they can't do or they're not going to do because of some other thing that they've told themselves. I'm not capable. But
Well,
again,
it's really easy to do when you start hurting,
of course,
to want to back down or change what you planned on doing. Well, this is good enough. I don't need to go the full distance or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the question I would have for you, this isn't anything we've talked about yet, but how much better do you feel about how you performed there? I mean, about yourself personally.
I would have to say, going along in this journey, I was proud of I got a lot of help from you. So after 30 miles, I really wanted to lay down, and you didn't let me back down because initially I'd said I was going to do 50 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came in after 30 miles, I wanted to lay down, and you said, "Oh no, you've got 2 more loops to do," and kind of encouraged me to go out.
Yeah.
And I was able to obtain those 2 loops, but really did need to rest. And that's where I got my first roughly hour of sleep.
Yeah.
And when we're talking sleep, it was like hard sleep.
Yeah. But I guess what I was referring to, not really the details of the race specifically, but just how you feel about your accomplishment. Imagine how you would feel right now about yourself or what you were able to not accomplish if you went there and you failed and you gave up on yourself. But see, you don't have that feeling now, correct?
I don't. I surprised myself being able to go the 100 miles because I don't really feel that I had the training in to do that, just because it was kind of a rash decision. And not having the time, and then having the injury in there, which kind of set me back even more.
Sure.
So, it was surprising.
Yeah.
It made me pretty proud of myself that I did it.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing and an important takeaway for like myself, for you, for anyone who's doing something that's hard. And when you actually put your mind to it and you overcome challenges, maybe that you thought were insurmountable, that's where the true magic happens in these things. The non-runner, the person who doesn't understand what we're even having a conversation about right now, this means nothing to them because they're not willing to put in the work to push themselves to a place that they can feel that. But I just want to say that I'm very proud of what you did. And, you really impressed me.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. So
I know I see you do it. And again, obviously you're a much faster runner, and you're able to complete that distance, a more difficult trail, in a shorter period of time. I'm not saying this in comparing the two of us because
Right.
I understand that I don't personally have that much training. It's the fact that I made I made my goal. I set a goal. I made my goal.
Yeah.
Even though I had 4 days,
Yeah. See,
I set my own goal inside of that.
here's where people, I think, have problems is that, you've all heard that phrase, comparison is the thief of joy. And that's where people get into this trap of comparing themselves to others. And it's very hard not to do that. When I see people who are better at me at things, I'm comparing myself like, man, I suck compared to them. But I think, we all need to take pride in the things that we have the ability to do and that we're capable of. And so long as we're challenging ourselves in a way that is meaningful, and what I mean by that is going above and beyond what you thought you had the ability to do, right? If you can do that and you overcome that, I mean, there was people out there of all different types of ages, abilities,
health conditions.
Of course. Yeah. There's people out there with, what do you call them? Prosthetic limbs. And making and overcoming challenges. And I think that's the real magic and the beauty of any of these types of events, because we can always look at somebody else and say, oh, well, I should be doing what they're doing. But no, we all have our own starting point. And so, like I say, I'm very proud of what you were able to do. And you crushed it.
For me, I would say, yes, I did.
Right. Yeah. And I'm excited about, I took a lot of footage while we were there. I took a lot of content, and I'm in the process right now of kind of building a video, which will kind of, in essence, be a documentary of your journey in that. And, it'll also highlight what kind of goes on at this event, because it is very unique. That's like no other that I'm aware of.
It is nice. I don't know if you stated that it is on private property. So
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Chamberlain Ranch, 8,000 acres. You lock the gate behind yourself and
you're able to open the gate not until 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And then you leave that gate the way you found it.
Well, that's
basically what they said. So if it's closed, you close it. If it's open, you can leave it open.
That's country 101.
But at 8 o'clock at night, that gate is closed. And if you didn't make it back onto the ranch at that time, you're not coming back in till 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, no, it's just the way that it should be. Right. Yeah. So the one real nice thing about being there this past 4 days was the fact we had no real internet connection. And oftentimes when you are at an event anymore, you look around and you see a bunch of people on their cell phones. They're all staring at their fucking screens. And there really wasn't any of that. People were just being people and enjoying other people's company and or just observing the happenings there. And that's a nice thing to see in 2025, because everything is so much about screen time.
Yeah.
Now, we did have the ability to text or whatever. At some points we could get information in that spotty of a amount of connectivity, but it wasn't like you could really do anything else, right? It was very limited.
And even at that, it didn't always go through. I got texts that came back that didn't reach you. So some of the running was during the night. And that was nice to try to get a text and let him know that I didn't get eaten by something out there or get lost.
Yeah, they did see some wildlife out there. Mountain lion. Somebody saw a mountain lion walking kind of alongside it, watching him run. And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "You sure it wasn't a bobcat?" He said, "No, man, it had a big old long tail." I said, "Okay, that's a cougar. Yeah, that's a mountain lion." And rattlesnakes were seen. Ticks were found. So we were out there doing the thing. And it was a good weekend.
As a matter of fact, one of the times I came in, Eric said, "Hey, what's that on your hat?" And you reached up and, "What did you take off my hat?"
It was a tick. And then she wakes up from her nap and she comes out and says, "What is this?" Hands me a fucking tick. And I'm like, "That's a tick. Where'd you get it?" She said, "It was on my face."
It was crawling on my face.
Yeah. So beautiful. But anyhow, enough about Born to Run. Glad to be back. But it was nice to get away. We were gone for about 6 days.
Do have to say
Good
that
evening, London. How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Good evening, London. I would have to say that this was not our dog's most favorite trip.
No, man. I tell you, it's difficult traveling with her. She's very, very needy, and it's just hard traveling with her. She's not good with separation. She's not good with crowds, and yeah, it's I don't know.
Not aggressive.
No.
When we say not good with crowds, she's not aggressive or anything. She just gets kind of scared.
Yeah.
And so she'll like try to stand in between your legs, and she just gets nervous. So she tends not to eat very much.
Yeah. So glad to see you're doing well, London. And thanks for joining us tonight. We're just kind of popping on here and sharing a few thoughts from this week. We don't have a lot to talk about as far as anything more or less that current, because again, we've been off the grid as it relates to any bullshit that's going on in the world today, and just kind of enjoying each other's company, and, glad to be back. But anytime you come back to your homestead, it's a little bit of an adjustment because we're only gone, 6 days maybe. And then I notice things right off the bat that are different, because things are always growing on a homestead. And so they look different in 6 days, amazingly enough. Grass is a little bit taller. Everything that you've got planted is a little bit more feral. And so, that was a big part of what I was doing today, is just kind of going out and assessing and seeing, what the damage was, or what the actual changes was to my homestead. One of the things that I noticed, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to deal with this. I've got a trap set right now, but he's going to need to go in the trap for me to eradicate this damn thing. And I'm assuming that it is a ground squirrel, but you saw the hole.
The hole was big.
The hole is the size of what looks like it could have been a badger, like dug this hole. Huge, like a groundhog or something went in there. But we don't have groundhogs here in California, but we do have ground squirrels. But this thing excavated a shit ton of soil out from underneath what I believe came out from where I've got all that wood, and which is right adjacent to asphalt where I park my cars. So now I'm going to have this void underneath my asphalt. So I got to move this wood pile and deal with this damn ground squirrel that's decided to take up residency here. Not okay.
Yeah.
Not okay.
Yeah.
I've had people say, because I'll eradicate things that don't have any useful purpose for me around here. If it's something that's, eating things that I'm trying to grow or being a pain in my ass, I'll break out Uncle Remington and I'll take care of that. So, but I've had people say, well, that's part of nature. They have a home there too. And I say, well, no, there's thousands of acres around our property. Maybe they'd like to be there instead of being here, because I'm going to take care of them with Uncle Remington if they're posing me a problem. And that's just the way it is, man. They didn't pay the mortgage here. They did, they don't pay the property tax. And so that's the same person that would probably tell you it's not okay to kill a spider or trap a mouse that's doing damage in your house.
But when you come home and you got a black widow in your hallway.
Yeah. What do you do with that black widow, Rebecca?
You catch it and you flush it down the toilet.
Right. So yet again, another thing where, you can leave for only so long before you realize, there's going to be things that are happening on the homestead that are not okay.
For me, I notice like spider webs that get in the corners of the windows while you're gone. They just take over.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You're not coming and going. However, the dust still accumulates.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah. London says we've been dispatching armadillos. And yeah, that's nothing that we have here in Cali, but I imagine they're quite the pain in the ass in a lot of other places. And yeah, it's just the way that it is, man.
Don't they have a hard kind of shell on
Yeah,
them?
they got like this armor kind of thing on them or whatever.
Hence the name.
Yeah, armadillo. But yeah, there's some things just have to go, man. So I'm gonna have to deal with this critter out here, which I'm assuming is ground squirrel or whatnot. But you know, we're gonna be making some changes here on the homestead, guys. And I think that's an important thing or recognition that anyone should do as they determine that, you know, these things are just not working for us anymore. It doesn't make sense to do things when it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I am going to be doing, in fact, I'll probably write something up tomorrow, and then I'll see if Rebecca can place an ad on either Craigslist or some other way that we can get the word out that we want to sell these sheep. Because I've got sheep in the sheep tractor that are more of a pain in the ass at this point than it's worth me dealing with. And so I've kind of made the determination that I think it's a good idea to maybe just sell them. And it's not to say that down the road, maybe we decide to ramp that back up again. But right now it doesn't make sense, because originally we had gotten sheep because I thought, okay, Rebecca doesn't really like eating sheep. I actually like lamb, but we had heard that hair sheep has kind of a more mellow flavor. And so we thought maybe that'll work. And so I got these hair sheep with the intent on butchering them and we would consume them. But yet we haven't done any of that. Right. And so I'm just moving these sheep around the pasture a couple of times a day. And it's a time consuming like thing that I don't really think I need to be doing. And so at some point you have to make that choice. Is this worth doing?
Well, you know, and they're not quite as easy to, when you want to go somewhere, you have to have somebody take care of them, basically, where with the cows, you're able to kind of fill a trough and have somebody make sure that the floats and the water troughs are going, and they can live off the pasture and what little hay is thrown to them. And they're a lot easier to take care of.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they eat more.
Well, you know, what we used to do when we had just a few cows out there, I mean, when we had more cows, it was more of a commitment. But when the numbers were down like 6 or less, we could just get a big bale, throw it out in the field. All the pastures on, water troughs are on floats. So it's not like anybody needs to do anything other than just check the property. And
make sure the water's not out.
Make sure the well's not kicked a breaker or something. And so from the standpoint of homesteading, it's very easy for people to come in and just do their thing. And it's less of a burden on the person you're asking to do that.
Right.
But going back to what I was saying about these sheep is that we're not using them in the way that I had originally intended, which was to consume them. We're basically just raising them and then selling the offspring. And you know, that's not really, I don't think, pencils out as far as the amount of time that the commitment of moving the damn things and facilitating their needs for what we get for selling, you know, sheep on Craigslist or what have you.
Yeah, I should have took note from our daughter getting rid of hers. Now, she didn't have hair sheep, but they had a much smaller ground.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's not a matter of taking note from anybody. It's just the fact that it's not working for me personally. And I think it would be better at this point to get rid of them. And so that's what we're intending on doing. And yeah. And another reason why is because I've got that mower now that I can take care of the fire hazard and all that. That was another reason why I had them kind of work in that front pasture, right? Get down the fire hazard and whatnot. But now I've got a mower, so I just don't need them for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem. I didn't necessarily want the sheep to begin with.
You good with it? You good with getting rid of the sheep?
I'm fine with getting rid of the sheep.
Okay. I just wanted to check to make sure you weren't going to be heartbroken if we put them up on Craigslist or something.
We'll sell the sheep and we'll get a goat.
No, we won't. That's what we will not get. Lisa Cordich in the house. How are you doing? Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. So let me see what else is going on here. Another big change for us is, and I will be creating a video. In fact, we shot a video this afternoon or this morning, right before we did the deed with the chickens, but it'll probably come out next week. So if you guys are interested in hearing in great detail why we've decided that no longer are we going to have roosters on our property, that's essentially what that video is going to consist of. But yeah, again, I think it's just one of those things where you have to make a determination. Why are you doing what you're doing? And does it make sense for you to continue doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And we've come to the realization that no, it doesn't. We don't need a rooster just because of those other factors, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And roosters and little people do not mix.
No. Anywho, so tomorrow, I think you're going to be doing some canning, no? Pickling?
I am going to be doing some pickling of some radishes, which I consider taste like dirt, but Eric loves them.
Right.
So we will take care of that.
Yeah. I've got to get those pulled. Those are one of the easiest crops that anybody can ever do. And they're such a quick turnaround. I mean, they're going to sprout in less than 7 days. You're going to start seeing things sprout, and then they'll be ready for harvest in like 25 days. Right. As opposed to most summer vegetables or root vegetables are going to take, 65 to 80 days, depending. These are a third of that time. Radishes are just very quick turnaround. And so I'm going to pull all those tomorrow, and you're going to get to processing them, correct?
Them, along with berries that have come in. We have some really tasty Logan berries.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of look like a blackberry.
Mm-hmm.
They're seedy like a blackberry, but I think they actually taste better than a blackberry.
Well, do you know what a Logan berry is actually? Do you know what it is? Because it's a hybridized version, or it's a hybridized cultivar. That's a creation between two different berries. Do you know what they are? I'm going to take your silence as no. Are you going to guess, or?
I was going to say a brambleberry, but I don't know.
No, it's a thornless. It's very nice. All the berries that I have growing, vine type berries, I choose varieties that are thornless because I don't really want thorns to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a nice thornless berry. It's called a Logan berry, and it's a cross between a blackberry and a raspberry.
Okay. Well, it looks like that.
Right.
It's not quite as dark as a blackberry.
It's about the size of like a good blackberry, but it's got a little bit smaller, I don't know what you call those little, bumps or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Right. They're not as big as a blackberry.
The texture of the
Right. They're the smaller, kind of like a raspberry, little bumps or whatever. But they're tasty, and they're coming in.
It's their wrinkles.
They're coming in hard. So we're going to be processing those along with some other berries and different things we've got coming in out there, because summer is on the way, right?
Mm-hmm. And last year we made some Loganberry jam out of it. It was very good.
Yeah.
So I'll toy with an idea of making a little bit of that.
Right.
However, we do make smoothies here, and so freezing them is probably one of the main directions that we'll be going in.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot more of that right this year, right? With the berries we've been harvesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
And eating those in breakfast and oatmeal and what have you.
Yeah, protein shakes after the run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you get your run in today?
I did not.
No.
I was busy cleaning up the RV.
Yeah.
And getting it all straightened out and washing everything and figuring out how to wash my clothes that possibly could have ticks on them.
Ah, there we go. I think we're getting ready to move into a did you know? Right? So Rebecca was interested in figuring out like what to do for this because it's nothing we really deal with around here too often. We don't have a real problem with ticks out here on our property
or
because
fleas.
right, because it's so arid and dry. Those ticks and things, they do better in areas that are a little bit moister.
Mm-hmm.
So where we were at was down on the central California coast, and they get, it's kind of coastal, and areas like that, they get the cool nights with the fog coming in and shit like that. They're really like, you get some pretty prolific tick populations.
That's some prime conditions for them.
Yeah. So, and that's, I think, why they get them back east where it's so goddamn humid. The people hiking the Appalachian Trail. That's one of the reasons why I didn't really want to hike that trail was because of ticks. I am not a fan of the tick, right? Anything that sucks my blood, and could potentially carry a life-altering disease like Lyme disease. I'm not a fan of that. So I try to avoid ticks, right? Oh, man.
So in this process, I had a bag full of clothes that I had been running in, and I needed to know how it was. Were the ticks still on it? Because there's not a host, right? So in theory, you would think that, well, no, that they don't have anything to suck blood on. It's just your clothing.
Mm-hmm.
However, ticks, if you didn't know,
this is the did you know?
You should know that ticks can live up to 2 years without a host.
That's impressive.
And considering the conditions, they can go a little shorter, they can go a little longer, but don't necessarily need a host.
Yeah. Well, see, I actually, if you recall, I was just spitballing it, and I thought, oh, well, they probably could easily last a couple of weeks, right? Because how they operate, I've actually seen this when I'm out hiking, right? I hike with my crew or whatever when I was out, and I worked over on the coast up in Humboldt County. Super foggy, super rainy all the time. It's always wet. And I would be out hiking, and how these things operate is when it's cool, they climb to like a piece of grass. They climb to the top of the piece of grass and just hang out there. They're just chilling, and they're waiting for a deer or a human being or something to walk by. And they're freaking seriously like Velcro. When you walk by, whoosh, they're on you. Mm-hmm. And then they're, you don't even know they're on you. And then they'll find a way to get into your clothing. Next thing you know, you got something attached on your neck or in your crotch. And you're like, what's this damn thing? Right. And that's what they do.
That's not attractive.
No. And when and when it gets hot and dry, then they go back down in the heat of the day. But then, cooler temperatures, they go up. And I've actually walked through grass and I've seen them. Like, I'm like, there's a tick, and they're just hanging out up there. And so when you're out deer hunting and you're skinning your deer and that thing's just laden with ticks, that's because they're just walking through grass, just picking up ticks.
Yes, beware.
Just hanging out.
However, so in reading all about this on how long ticks can live without a host, I also needed to figure out what I was going to do with these clothes. So what I found out is if you put them in the dryer on very hot, your clothing, for 6 minutes, you dry them before you ever wash them, that will kill the ticks. And
then you can also,
because it dries them out and dehydrates them.
You were also saying that you could wash them in hot water too, or something.
You could wash them on your clothes on a very high. It needs to be at least up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
But the other is if you see a tick on you, you can suffocate it through, say, packing tape. You attach it and then fold it over and leave. You can dispose of it because they can't get out. Yeah, but anyway, they suffocate.
Yeah, but
that you have to see.
But what if it's you
can't do that if it's attached.
Yeah.
That's unattached.
Right. Okay. I got you. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, man, at all. It freaks me out.
I didn't find any attached to me. I'm not scratching or anything. So I'm feeling confident I don't have any attached.
Right. London says, did you wash the Porterhouse and Teal jet? No. No, man.
As a matter of fact, she's sitting out there. Just the inside has been washed. The outside is waiting.
That's a that's a motorhome. That's not
That's
a
as
jet.
close to a jet as we're going to get.
Yeah, that's true. True that. But so anyhow, we butchered what, 5 roosters this morning?
5 roosters. 2 of them nasty roosters.
Yeah, I don't know how nasty they were, but they're just, they got to go. So we got those processed. Did you process them as well? You haven't run them through the freeze dryer? They're just still in the fridge?
I haven't because it would have been kind of loud. So I was holding off since I knew that we were going to come in and do a live stream.
Okay.
I didn't need the freeze dryer running and making a bunch of noise. And,
Yeah. Well, we can get to that tomorrow.
Mhm.
We got a bunch of stuff lined up for tomorrow that needs to happen. And it just seems like there's never enough hours in the day, particularly when you just come back from being gone. You're taking everything and putting it back in its rightful place and kind of dealing with any of the issues that are discombobulated. But
Yeah,
one of the things that's been on my mind is those roosters. I'm just tired of
the
them.
roosters. The herbs need to be get after and processed and dehydrated.
Tomatoes are coming on.
Tomatoes are coming on. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm hoping everybody's getting a good crop of their summer vegetables starting to work their way into the summer harvest.
I'm looking for the basil to get big enough. Last year, the basil Eric grew just was growing like crazy and very tasty. It's far better than what you could purchase in the store.
Oh yeah, it's coming on right now pretty hard. I was out there today, and it'll probably be in 2 more weeks, and you'll be ready to just start going for it. You could pull a little bit now, but it's not going to do anything to further the development of it. It's going to kind of slow it down, but it's coming on hard. So get ready.
I'm excited.
That's good. And so also, I guess today was the end of our lettuce. And, maybe I've mentioned before that, we eat lettuce for a good portion of the year. About 7 months out of the year, we eat what we grow, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the time, we have to get our lettuce from the store. And Rebecca buys that organic shit in a bag. It's like salad in a sack, right?
Yeah.
And it's not your shredded iceberg lettuce. It's like a salad mix or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's spinach and arugula and the
right.
What do you call it? Green leafy lettuce and
sure
the variety of different romaine.
But it's nothing like what we grow.
No, the flavor is not, and the texture is not either.
So I pulled the last of that out today, and then there's some beans already started in there in the same bed that's coming behind them. And that'll give them some room to spread out and do their thing. But, the chickens are the beneficiaries of that bolted, bitter lettuce at this point, and they were just eating it up like crazy. But we also have, I'd actually like you to start adding those beet tops because the beets are coming in hard, and beet tops are extremely nutritious and good for you.
They are supposed to be good for you.
No, it's not that they're supposed to be good for you.
They are good for you. I understand.
It's if you grow your own stuff in good soil, you know that it's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the things that we do is we'll take the tops from the beets and that'll go into the salad as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was noticing as we were driving up the coast. Let's see here. DHT's in the house. How are you doing?
Hello.
Let's see. He's in the People's Republic of Maryland, right? Maryland. Yep.
Yes, he's in Maryland because we talked a little bit about that one of the episodes.
Still only have spring garden in. It's a little too early for the summer garden. After this weekend, it'll warm up. Yeah. Bill Zegley's in the house. How are you doing? A little bit of rain sometimes. Hard, but nope. All around and not within the county of Homestead. Thank God. The county of Homestead. Jason Goochlag. Is that your home kill trailer? If so, could you show a look around the setup? Cheers. The home kill trailer. I'm not sure what you're referring to. What trailer? I'm not sure what you're referring to, Jason. You'd have to kind of elaborate there so that
I wonder if he watched when Frank the Kill Guy was here and thought that was the trailer was ours.
Oh yeah, no. If that's the video you're referring to, no, that's Frank the Kill Guy, and he's all over the county. He's actually all over 3 counties in the area, Butte, Shasta, and Tehama. And that dude is working all day.
And he does a great job.
Well, it's not that he doesn't do amazing work. He's just very good at what he does, and people who want to see a professional do something in a professional way, in a very humane way. I mean, that dude is just knocking animals down and just undressing them all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what it is. But no, if that's what you're referring to, Jason, that's a guy that we have come out and do our live ranch kill. And that's, in my opinion, throughout the years of seeing that and raising animals in that way, that's just the best way to go. It's completely humane. The animal,
it's nice because the animals don't really suspect what's happening.
No, it's no real stress, and they just go down and it's lights out. So that's so much the better way to do it. Let's see, where were we at here? Yeah, you were mentioning onions and garlic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that too, because we are at the end of our garlic, which is really nice. You plant enough of it that carries us almost all the way through the year.
Yeah, that should be coming around June 15th. But see, that's going to be right about when I'm getting ready to leave for my race, or we're getting ready to leave for my next event in Wyoming. So I'll be really busy that week, probably pulling garlic and getting it on the drying racks and all of that. But yeah, it's looking really good out there, the garlic. However, I will say this: the weeds out there kind of starting to take over. And what makes me think of that is we were driving home the other day. Yesterday, yes. Was it? Was it yesterday we came home? Yeah, and we're driving up the Central Valley there in California. And it's very similar to the valley we live in. It's the same valley. If you ever look at California on a map topographically, you'll see this basin in the middle, and that's the valley, right? Got mountains on either side, separated by about, 30 to 40 miles, maybe sometimes less at different times. But it's just this wall of mountains on either side with this basin in the middle. And it's a very fertile basin at that. And there's a lot of food that's grown there for California, as well as the rest of the country and world comes out of this state. But the thing that I was telling Rebecca that the average person doesn't even think about, it never crosses their mind. And I was saying, you see those fields right there, Rebecca? You notice how there's not a fucking weed in there? You ever think about that? You got all this land and you look down and it's just perfect row after row after row of the same crop. Well, obviously, because that's all genetically modified. It's a specialized seed that they can plant there. And then they come through with their herbicide and they spray Roundup or whatever it is that they're going to kill the herbaceous plants with. Everything but
crop that they're,
whether that crop is lettuce or broccoli or
strawberries
or whatever. I don't know so much about the strawberries. I knew that they do spray pesticides in there because of the bugs and such. So it's really important that if you're going to be buying stuff like that from the store and you don't grow your own, maybe consider spending a little bit more money and getting some organic shit. Because I'm telling you, there's a lot of chemicals that are going into those fields. And the average person, the average non-player character, the NPC, the person that just goes to the store and buys their fucking lettuce and, they don't even think about that. But I'll tell you what, if you're a homesteader, you're a farmer, you do think about that. Because you know what? Or sitting right out there in my garlic patch and my onion patch is loaded with weeds. And there's a reason for that. It's because I don't spray herbicide. It's not genetically modified crops. Right? So it's just kind of an interesting thing that I was like thinking about a little bit, but most people just right by them. They don't even think about it.
It's pretty to look at, though.
Well, yeah, it's very organized. Those fields, very organized. It's all done with lasers to level it, and it's done with GPS to plant. And you can't get a line that straight by eyeballing it. That's all done with technology. And what's also technology is all of the nutrients that have to go back into that soil, because that soil gets denuded because of the way that they farm it. In conventional agriculture, they till that soil. And in tilling that soil, you're killing essentially the soil life. You're putting all those chemicals and shit into the soil. Not great for the soil life. There's probably not a lot of worms and different invertebrates and things crawling around in there. But they can grow a hell of a head of lettuce or some broccoli because they bring in anhydrous ammonia and other kinds of nutrients that goes into the food that you now put on your plate and go, this is delicious. But you have no idea what fucking actually went into making that. So what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is consider being a farmer. Consider growing your own stuff that you can put on your plate and feel really good about. Like, I know this tomato doesn't have any bullshit in it, right? When you go to the store and you buy it from there, and I get it, it's work. Not everybody has the time nor the
space,
the know-how, nor the space, nor the whatever. And so I'm not shaming people. I'm just saying, if you do have the ability, or you're concerned at all about, maybe what you put in your body, because, just because two things look the same, the nutrient profile of them is completely like not the same. And that's what my point is. It looks like really like green, awesome broccoli. Is it the same as the broccoli that I grow in my soil? Probably not.
No, it's amazing how the flavor's different.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. Bill Zegley says, where in Wyoming you going to? I'm going to Sheridan is where we're going to stay. And then the race starts in Dayton. And then it runs up to like 48 miles up into the whatever, and then turns around and comes back, finishes in Dayton. But it's in that area, Dayton, Sheridan, Wyoming. And I'm hoping that I'll be successful. So I have to will myself to get to the finish line. And we'll just, I'll have to use Rebecca as my motivation, since now she's an accomplished ultra runner who, by the way, you just incredibly impressed me. And like I say, I'm very excited about editing this content. I haven't been this excited about putting content out in a long time. More so because of the creative aspect of telling a story, in a sense, and compiling, something that's consumable. So I know a lot of people that are a part of this channel now aren't really that interested in ultra running per se, but you may be interested in just seeing what she was able to do and the story that I'm able to tell about her doing it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I mean, I feel like I'm an older person out there, but it is amazing how there are other people who are in their 70s. They're 78. I think the oldest person out there was 81.
Yeah. And
truly amazing.
It goes back to what I was saying at the start of this. It's like we all have different starting points, and, some of us are going to have different ending points. And the barriers that one places upon themselves is a lot of times because they look around themselves and say, well, everybody else is of about my age, or this is kind of what I should be doing at my age. And then when you see people who are outliers that are doing things that, 78-year-olds shouldn't be out running 100 fucking miles, most people. But, when it's not to say that you can't, is I guess my point. And so I just find that incredibly inspiring. And it's worth acknowledging and celebrating when people do amazing things. I wonder how long is the life of those crop chemicals? Yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't know all that. I just know that, big agriculture and big everything, there's a lot of money by those companies, those agrochemical companies.
Hmm.
They got lobbyists and things in Washington, in the pocket of the Food and Drug Administration, to overlook certain things probably, or, oh, well, this is good to do here, but it's all a money grab, you know. I mean, when you hear that they don't have certain things in our food in other countries, or they have it here, but yet they don't have it over in Europe. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Why do they need to put those food colors and weird shit in the food?
because it makes it look so attractive.
Well, it makes it look attractive, but it's also selling a product. That's really what it's about. It's not about whether it looks good or not. All they care about is the money.
That's right. Makes you want to buy it.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah, it makes you want to buy it, but it's also a
If it was
chemical that
just all
costs money.
bland color,
Yeah. You want to buy it? You want to go get you some Fruit Loops or Apple Jacks?
some Captain Crunch.
Yeah, is that what you want?
Not really.
Okay.
Scrapes your mouth up.
Okay. All right. But anyhow, I had somebody ask a question because I posted that video last week, and they were asking a question about the biochar, and that I allow the pigs to kind of browse through. I put it out there; they snack on it, and they asked the question: is that if they're eating the biochar, could it not, in fact, deplete them of their nutrients? Right?
Mhm.
It's an absorbent property, and I thought, that's a pretty perceptive question. Because it actually, if they eat it in overabundance, it is said to be able to do that. So um, what my experience has been in feeding it to them is they don't just sit there and eat it like
It's not like they eat the whole entire pile. They just kind of nibble through it.
right. And when I shot that video, they had really never seen biochar before, so it was like a new thing. But it's now out in the pen, and they'll, maybe snack on it or whatever. It's not like they're sitting there all day eating biochar.
Mhm.
It's like that with most animals. They'll kind of eat what they feel like, hey, this is cool, and then they'll move on to something else. Now, if that's all they had to eat was charcoal,
Then they would probably eat
maybe
more.
they'd eat a little bit more of it or something. But, we feed our animals enough, so they're going to eat what they want there. And then that's just going to be kind of something they snack on. But in reality, what I've found, as far as what's recommended for feeding livestock, anywhere from about 0.5% to about 3%, you can add. And that's by volume, right? So you'd have 97% their feed, 3% biochar, or 2% or 1% biochar added to their food. And it's going to do, wonders for their ability to, that's good for their gut, good for their microbiome, can remove toxins in their system. And so, yeah, there's a lot of studies where people have done that at the university level in this country and elsewhere, where they've, fed livestock at those ratios, and then done a bunch of testing and everything. So it's nothing that I've done. That's just kind of the research that I've been able to look up. And I think if it's good for people to do, as far as in small quantities, it's probably good for animals to do as well.
Well, and like you've said with the chickens, we pretty much toss anything out there, and they're smart enough to know what they like and what they don't like. So um, they'll eat what they want, and
Right.
maybe a little bit of something that they're not supposed to, but not enough that's going to damage them.
Well, if they
Unless they were absolutely starving and that's all they had to eat.
right, they'll figure out, that's nothing that's going to like work with me. Generally speaking, I mean, we feed them everything, and so I don't know. I think there's just so many people out there that have maybe read something without actually having tried it out themselves. And I think that it's so important, like when you have animals, to like try things out.
Mm-hmm.
Animals are not nearly as sensitive, I guess, as people would lead you to believe, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't feed horses this particular hay. That's not horse hay. Well, I'm telling you that my dad fed our horse, who lived to be 34 years old, exactly what the cows ate, which was nasty old moldy fucking hay that the cows got. If it's a little rain damaged or whatever, or if it's volunteer ryegrass with a bunch of weeds in it, that's what she was eating too. Right. But
moon tea.
Yeah. She lived to a ripe old age and she was healthy for a long time. I mean, this cow I got out here, I haven't given her nothing. She eats off the land. And now she looks like she's about ready to die, but she's like 24 years old. That's like a record.
Yeah.
For a cow. Cows live to be about like 10 to 12 years old, man. Because then their teeth fall out and they call it, they're a gummer cow. They can't really keep enough food in them to keep flesh on her, but she's done well. She's like 24 years. No, she's 22, I think.
Yes. She absolutely loves watermelon. But now that she's at the age she's at,
she's got no teeth.
Right. She could eat the melon because it's soft and squishy, but the rind is what she would normally eat. And she can't get that down. She will try to gum it though.
Yeah. She I never like worm her or anything like that. And I think once you start doing that, it's like the soil, I believe. Once you till your soil and you start giving your soil what it needs to grow instead of protecting and building the soil life, which is what is going to actually help grow your food, you're basically, you've created this dependence on that fertilizer to grow something with. And it's the same, I believe, with animals, where once you start worming them, they're going to, they just need that. But she's not wormy. I've never seen worms in her shit. And when we used to raise cows, like a lot of cows, we wormed them all the time. And there was always like, all kinds of worms in those cows. If we didn't worm them, then you'd have to put the chemical in there. So I don't know. It's just an interesting thing.
I found when you started doing the gardening is because it never crossed my mind that a cow would eat a tomato. Yeah. But we had some that were getting pretty mushy on the vine, and I picked it. I picked a few of them off actually, and I just kind of held my hand over the fence, and boy, her tongue wrapped around my hand, and she pulled that in, and the slobber was coming down. She couldn't wait to get the next one.
Yeah, they like tomatoes.
Yeah,
tomatoes are good. One thing that I noticed here, guys, and this is something that they just rolled out in California. Maybe this will become a thing in other states. I don't know, because we're such trendsetters here in California that but the CHP just rolled out a bunch of new cars, and they're like 100 of them, a fleet of 100. And what does it say here? I'm pulling up this article. It says the CHP shared a video showcasing the low-profile patrol vehicles they plan to deploy 100 2024 Dodge Durangos throughout the state. And they said that their goal is to, to blend into traffic and to crack down on what they call video game style driving on highways. And we actually saw a few of these vehicles when we were driving, right? And the interesting thing about them is, they don't have any lights on the top. They don't have any antennas or anything like that. So they're really kind of hard to spot. And in fact, the door decal, the CHP door decal, is very muted as well. It's like it's
almost the same color as the vehicle.
Yeah, it's like a shadow almost like type thing. And then they've got like, their lights and stuff are all integrated into the vehicle. So there's no like actual lights on the thing that you can see. But they're in fact, they're different colors. They have ones that are white. They have ones that are, black. They have, all different kind of muted colors, right? And nondescript colors. And I don't know, what do you think of that, Rebecca? I mean, it's already enough that cops hide behind shit and, hit you with the radar gun and all of that sort of thing. What is your take on law enforcement that's trying to become a little bit more stealthy to find somebody who's a few miles over the speed limit, or maybe not even a few miles over the speed limit, but if a person's speeding like 100 miles an hour, that's probably a problem. But what do you think about that as far as the traffic enforcement being ramped up here in California?
I honestly do not think it's necessary that they're in vehicles that are where they blend in with everybody else. I mean, technically, they're not supposed to hide, but yet they do.
Well, who says I shouldn't hide? Is that a technical, like law or something?
It is. They're supposed to be in plain sight. So I guess they're in plain sight because you can see them coming from one direction, but you can't see them coming from the other direction.
They're in plain sight as soon as you like get to a certain point, and then like you look over and it's like, oh, there he is. Right? Yeah. You can't see him when you're coming. So, I mean, to define plain sight.
To me, it's almost they could spend the money somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or they could work on paying down the deficit. But purchasing these new cars, I think they would accomplish the same thing if they just physically went out and did their job.
Well, that's what they're doing. They're trying to bust people who are driving too fast.
But I think that they could do that in the cars that they already own.
Okay. I'm not saying I disagree with that. I don't know. I just find a little bit, maybe I wouldn't have a problem with this if they weren't getting revenue from it.
Mm-hmm.
If they're out trying to really fight crime and be good crime fighters, why the fuck are they making you pay a fine for your ticket?
Yeah.
It's a money grab. And so damn well that these vehicles that they're rolling out are going to be, if you're in one of those cars, what's your job? It's to go bust people who are speeding. So they're not supposed to have quotas, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So how many did you get this month? Yeah, you're employee of the month. You wrote the most of these tickets for hiding and getting people who are speeding. I don't know. It's just, I don't know if I agree with that, but I guess the argument could be made, well, you shouldn't do anything against the law, and therefore you don't have anything to worry about. Right?
Yes. However, I've actually been pulled over without doing anything wrong.
Yeah. So says you. Right?
Well, I know I didn't do anything wrong because I didn't get a citation.
Oh, okay. Did you talk your way out of it? That's cool. That's our dog snoring back there in case you hear that.
We're telling you that trip was extremely stressful on her.
Yeah.
And she has been sleeping like crazy.
She has not recovered yet.
She doesn't even pay attention to us. She ignores us.
Yeah. Heather Guthrie, how are you? Good evening. Thanks for joining us. And she asks the question, why are you named Porterhouse and Teal? Yeah. Well, we hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, or a portion thereof. And in 2020, we hiked about, 650 miles or something. And that was all self-supported during the COVID era. But along the way, when you get out on trail, you develop what is called a trail name. People on the trail will name you based on some defining characteristic. Mine happened to be, I was like talking about food and steaks.
You have to understand, when you're out and you're hiking and you're sweating and you're living off of Cliff Bars, I mean, literally living off of Cliff Bars or candy to give you the energy, and you have him behind you and he's saying, God, wouldn't you just love to have a hot dog right now? One that's just so nice and crisp on the outside. It just snaps in your mouth and juice runs down and you're starving, right? And he's going through this full
with the
description.
White, ice cold white onion and oh gosh. So yeah, so I was always like talking about food when we're sitting there eating this bullshit, just starving ourselves to death on sugar calories. And then and so since we raised cows and this and that, talking about Porterhouse steaks, and so it just kind of stuck that way. And then Teal got the trail name Teal because when she was on trail, she had to have everything that was matching.
I'm a freak about color.
Yeah. And so she had like teal little bow. She had teal poles, her hiking poles, had a teal shirt on. Yeah, her shoes were teal, so, I mean, it just kind of, that's where it came from. And, of course, this channel originally, I started this channel because just basically to document our journey on the Pacific Crest Trail. I thought it was important that we do that. And I'm so glad that we did, because it's you never are going to remember certain things when you see so many things in a day. I mean, you won't even remember what you saw the next day unless you take a picture or video or write it down, because you're just seeing so much beauty and you're meeting so many different people, and it's just a blur. And so I really wanted to create something, and that's where this channel was born, and called it Porterhouse and Teal. So that's the origin story there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's since morphed into something completely different, I guess. We're talking about what we're doing here on our homestead, and we get on this live stream and we just kind of like spitball it and freewheel it and have a conversation anymore. But
plus we have the hopes to finish up the section that we haven't done. So
that would be sweet.
Porterhouse and Teal still lives, hopefully.
Yeah, that would be sweet. We only have from, I say only, it would probably be about another 1,100 miles, I think. It's a 2,650 mile journey.
Right. So we've got to go from Donner Pass to Mexico.
Mexico, yeah. But we've done all the way from Donner up to Canada, all the way through Washington and Oregon and, some of California.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a beautiful trail. And not a fan of the Cliff Bars.
Yeah. If I never ate another, I'd be okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the story, Heather. But anyhow, do you have anything else? I mean, it's kind of a light night, but we do have some things outside we need to still tend to. We got plenty of daylight here in Northern California, which is nice.
It is.
I really like that.
And you're still pulling in strawberries. I'm assuming those are going to keep coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're never bearing. So they are still producing. And I did a little work out in the orchard today, doing a little weeding and such. And then I'll probably run the tractor through there in the main areas and get some of those weeds down and whatnot. But it's pretty feral out there right now, which actually is kind of what I want. But there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm not really a fan of, like umbrella sedge, that kind of stuff will take over, pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
And so Johnson grass, right? Bermuda grass. I mean, there's really nothing you can do with that stuff other than just kind of like work around it and mow it and stuff.
Now, when we left, we took any of the fruit that we had in the house with us to consume, but also it would have rotted sitting in the house and thus making it smell just lovely in here. So anyway, when we got home, we had no fruit, and I was kind of hoping to go out and pick some peaches.
No, there's no peaches ready at this point. That one tree that I picked earlier that comes in at the first part of May that's that early treat, and it's done. I mean, I probably should maybe plant like more of that or whatever, another tree. I mean, it'll get bigger next year and we'll get more of a yield off of that. But soon it's going to be a minute for any more peaches, but we'll have that Indian free peach in the chicken yard. That thing is very prolific. Got a lot of peaches off that last year. And I need to go out there and actually thin that. I still have a lot of fruit on there that needs to be knocked off. But I've got a lot of other stuff out there that's going to be coming in, but they're all staggered throughout the season. So they're, we'll have something in June and July and August and all the way through October. We can expect to have some form of harvest out there, but right now there's nothing ready. Yeah. Got some pluots and things like that that'll be coming on, but anyhow.
So while we were gone, our daughter was taking care of the place, and the weather obviously was pretty nice and the pool water was warming up. And so I let her know that the grandkids were more than welcome if she wanted to bring them over to swim. And while we were gone, the one picture that actually made it through, even though we had very little connection, was a picture of our youngest grandson in a little life vest and goggles. He's 1 year old and swim goggles on. It was so cute, holding on to the pool gate.
Yeah, that's awesome. Somebody's getting use out of that pool. You clean it and never swim in it.
I swim in it when it gets warmer outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool.
When,
Anything else you want to chat about tonight, Rebecca? You've just been kind of freewheeling it here for about an hour, I guess. And I don't know.
I don't know. Do you guys have any more questions of anything that's happening here, or tell us what's happening with you guys?
Yeah, tell us something good, right?
Yeah. You don't want me to sing.
Oh, no.
I heard the line, but you do not want me to sing.
Yeah. So anyhow, but I think we're going to call it tonight, guys. And we do thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll be back next week, maybe with something a little bit more organized. But we just did want to jump on here since we were absent last week. We didn't make it on last week, and we thought, you know what, we should probably get on and just have a little conversational debrief about what we did this past week and how things are progressing around here.
Yeah.
But be expecting some content coming probably this weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about our decision to not have roosters around here anymore. Yeah, I know that makes Rebecca really sad. She's all about having a rooster crow at like 3:30 in the morning.
Gotta love me some rooster at 3:30.
So anyhow, we're gonna probably bounce, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, homesteading is not harmful content, and go out and try to be better tomorrow than you were today.
Enjoy life, guys. Thanks for dropping in.
Yeah. Thanks, DHD and Bill Zegley. Yeah. We'll have to get out there sometime, out there to Midwest or something. I want to get out there when I can take her and we just chill. You know, I don't want to go out there and fucking speak or anything like that. I'd just rather go out and just hang out and watch people, you know, talk to people and socialize, because that's kind of fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, we'll have a good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks.